Yo, what is good, everybody? It is Tuesday night. You know what it is. It's Flyers Talk A2D. Got a lot to talk about. 6-1 game here tonight. Tippett just scored as we were getting ready to come on air here. We're going to be doing live reactions to this third period. We're going to also be doing some post-game stuff. We're also going to give our final thoughts on the Four Nations, what we thought, the outcome. Was it what we wanted? Got a lot to talk about tonight. So hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share button. If you got that share button on your screen, let's go. Time to talk Flyers. Let's get at it.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of Flyers Talk A2D right here on A2DRadio.com. I am Matt Sinsuti along with the Darkwing Brian Daly.
Sometimes it's really feels good being right about this team. Let's go.
The Broken One, Rob Povia. And Mr. Blue Shirt, Mr. Broadway, Mr. Switzerland, Big Bad Brad Ryer. And we are brought to you by, once again, the Dr. Paul Vidal over at Specialized Physical Therapy. If you got any aches and pains that are giving you no end of discomfort, by all means, go to specializedphysicaltherapy.com, make an appointment either for Cherry Hill or Burlington, New Jersey. Hit up the doc as soon as possible. After a few sessions with them, you will feel very, very good. Almost as good as new. And you can get back to doing the things you love and get back to not feeling pain while you're working. Because if there's one thing you don't ever want to do, it's not only feeling like you have to go to work, but feeling pain while you have to do it. So, Specialized Physical Therapy, make yourself feel better. And the poll question for tonight is, the Flyers will begin the final push for the playoffs with a big win against their rival, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Agree or disagree? And right now, as we speak, Flyers did go up 6-1 just before we went live. Owen Tippett getting himself a nice little goal. Flyers have been having themselves quite a game, especially in that second period. So, gents, this should be, hopefully, I'll say hopefully. Always got to keep that going. Hopefully. This should be pretty obvious. But, gentlemen, I leave the floor to you.
Well, against Pittsburgh Penguins, no lead is ever safe, especially if you can't control beyond the blue line where Crosby and company, Brian Rust, healthy back in the lineup, they thrive. And I think the Flyers have done a really good job, right, defensively, eliminating or minimizing the chances behind the goal line and around the crease tonight and really pressing upon the Penguins, their weakness, and that's in the transition game. They very rarely score off the transition in this day and age, and they have a tough time defending it. So far tonight, the proof has been in the pudding, and the results have come on the score sheet. But I think it's bigger than just tonight. I think the Flyers, if you really want to talk about getting back into the playoff picture, which they're only 5 points behind entering tonight, but a log jam of teams as there's a lot of parity in the Eastern Conference. I think you need to take both of these games in this home and home. You need to win at home, take care of business handily, as we're seeing tonight, and you need to go into their building and avenge your the first matchup was on the road in Pittsburgh where they lost 7-3. Avenge that because Pittsburgh's right there too. And you could talk about like potential tie-breaking scenario. You want to control the series record in that game, and you got to start compiling points here, boys. It's getting late real early.
No, absolutely. And you know what? When I created this, I did not think when I said big win, this is not what I had in mind. I'll tell you that right now. 6-1. Yeah. So this is just a well-rested team that got the opportunity to just kick back, relax, forget about hockey for a couple weeks, and this is what you're seeing. This is a team that, like I was saying since the beginning of the year, has the talent to win hockey games and make a playoff push right now. Now, be honest with you, I don't necessarily see anything big happening at the trade deadline. I think the Kuzmenko-Peltier deal was going to be the big splash for this trade deadline. But, I mean, these guys have come in and performed for the Flyers early. I know, but Peltier got his first point tonight on one of the Noah Cates goals, I believe it was. Kuzmenko making an impact early, not just on the ice, but off the ice as well. With just his personality in the locker room, he just fits what this team is doing. But I'm with you, Rob. It's getting late. There's a lot of teams in front of you. Yeah, you're 5 points out of the playoff push. A lot of teams in front. You got to start racking up some points here. Now, granted, I would rather see them win more games, but if you can start forcing some overtimes and at least getting 1 point, even if it winds up resulting in a loss, that could be beneficial in the long run moving forward. But, I agree with you, Rob. You got to get as many points as possible. You got to get at least 3 out of 4 points in this home and home, which obviously, barring a miracle, you're getting 2 tonight. But this team is rejuvenated. They're playing with a spark. And to be honest with you, I love what I've been seeing the last 2 games.
I mean, I will say this, that it's always a good night to watch the Penguins get their asses kicked by the Flyers. There's never a bad day for it, at the end of the day. And what do you mean, Bri, that you weren't expecting this kind of a thing? Come on, man. Where the hell's your faith?
Well,
I don't have an answer.
Yeah, that's what I
you
thought.
expect them to score 6 goals every night?
Goddamn yes.
Games.
That's what I want. Expectations.
Come on.
It's been a glorious return from the break, but let's face facts. The Penguins, another big weakness on their team has been between the pipes. Tristan Jarry no longer there, down in the AHL. And Dalkovich had a good start to the season. I don't really feel he's a starter in this league. And that first goal tonight really set the trend for this game. It was a weak goal. Risto hit it on edge, maybe to Brian Boucher's point, maybe it was on edge that allowed it to seep 5-hole. But still, you let a goal like that early, it's usually going to be a long night, boys.
Yeah.
And the other thing, too, is even with the Edmonton game, despite the score being, 6-7-3 or something like that, the Flyers are outplaying these teams. They're spending a lot of time in the opposing team zone, which is one of the best ways to win hockey games here, fellas. They're scoring on transitional plays. They're scoring on the power play. They're scoring getting set up. They're getting some good bounces to go their way. This is exactly what I want from this team, is grinding out wins. I don't care if you score 6 goals a game, but playing like this, controlling the pace of play, it's the best way to win a hockey game.
Absolutely. By the way, Heather, congratulations on you meeting your beloved Ivan Fedotov.
It was and a really high-pitched squeal. That's what I assumed what it was.
Yeah.
Sunday. It was weird.
Yeah, I heard that too. I thought that there's some wild animal had just gotten killed, but apparently no. Apparently it was something else. So,
Carnival time's always good times, though, and another record attendance there.
Mm-hmm.
Heather, I assume, being one of the faithful.
Definitely, I would definitely think so. By the way, everybody's pretty much from what Heather was saying with everybody else in the chat. She also said it didn't sound that bad. Are you sure it didn't sound that bad? Okay. But anyway, by the way, I guess all of our invitations are in the mail, like Benny had said in the chat. So, so congratulations in more than one way there for you, Heather. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting when Brad gets there, being a Rangers fan, having to see a union between a Flyers fan and a Flyers player. That would be an interesting one. I think he should be the one to write the toast. So,
guys, the Pittsburgh Penguins have now given up 19 goals in the last 3 games. You think they have a little problem between the?
Yeah, they got a few.
I mean, they got destroyed by the Capitals. I mean, that could have been worse. The Capitals kind of took it easy on them in the third period. then you give up 5 to the Rangers, and some of those goals were ridiculous. I mean, I know they're my team, but come on, those goals. A couple of those goals, the VC goal was a shot that should have been stopped, and so was the Cooley goal. Penguins have no goaltending right now. They're not going anywhere. And you know what? They're in free fall. The Flyers have a golden opportunity to go get him again. What are they playing him tomorrow night or
Thursday?
Thursday. Okay, so they have a golden opportunity to get two in a row here against the Penguins. I mean, they need to take advantage when a team is in free fall and you play them. Those are the games you've got to win if you want to try to make a playoff push.
Especially since they're going balls out right now. They put up 40 shots against your Rangers. And usually when you outshoot a team 40-16, you don't expect to lose the game 5-3. So that's demoralizing.
That's very demoralizing.
You can't when your goalie is giving up soft goals, it's very hard to win. It just is.
We got Mike chiming in here. Are we seeing the dirty Penguins end the Crosby, Malkin, Letang era and possibly form a new stinky era? Well, if you mean a new stinky era in the sense that they stink, like the Penguins actually suck, sure, they're on their way towards that.
The bill has come due, gentlemen.
Yes, and like any team,
come due.
Yes, like any team that has an extended period of success, eventually
you keep trading your first round picks to go get guys and keep getting rentals all the time when it's clear that you're not going to win the Stanley Cup again anymore because your guys are too old. This is what happens. Malkin should just retire. He looks so slow out there. He really does. He just I cannot believe that he's still playing the way he's playing right now. I mean, is it me? Is it my hate for him? Or is it just fact?
He's a ghost of his former self.
He is. It's hard to believe because he was a great player, but he should retire. I mean, he's embarrassing himself.
Well, it's two things. One, age, definitely, as they say, father time is undefeated. But at the same time, also his injuries, I think, have added up because he did have a history of some injury problems. Yes, so I think that also has added to the to his decline. If anything, it might have accelerated things. So, because he had some serious issues. What was it, 5-6 years ago? He was consistently out of the lineup. Malkin was. So
absolutely. But he just looks like a player that the Penguins at the end of the season really have to go to him and just say, hey.
Right.
Maybe it's time. I mean, I know it's going to be tough because he probably wants to go out. Crosby and him probably want to go out together, but unless he's willing to accept the responsibility of playing like on a fourth line or something, they really shouldn't be putting him out there anymore. It's pretty bad to watch.
I mean, they don't.
I mean,
have
for us haters, it's very enjoyable to watch. But I kind of feel bad for him just watching the way he's playing.
Right. And let's see here. Mike's also saying, I'll be going to Clearwater next week to see 3 Phillies games. Well, hopefully you enjoy those.
Love spring training.
Yeah.
Great.
Let's see here. Priz saying, he's showing up to the wedding like a mix of Chris Pontius and King Diamond. And I'm talking like Gomer Pyle the whole time. My God, Priz. My God, man. You are making an impression there, buddy. I don't know if it's a positive or a negative impression, but you're going to make one. That's for sure. We'll let you guys come to your conclusions on that. Anyway. Benny's, though, does ask, do they get a suitor for Carlson?
Well, there was a report that came out today that Kyle Dubas will, if they can get a suitor, will deal him and retain 50% of the contract almost immediately. So if a deal comes to fruition for Carlson, the Penguins will deal him. They reported that this morning. I thought he got traded by from what the image he showed, because typically the source that I use they'll show like the logo, the player, and report on the bottom. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh, we're gonna have some fun trade news today. No.
I know. We can't have anything nice.
Nope. It's all right.
That goes for the country, too, apparently. We can't have anything nice, apparently.
No,
I think the
that's not.
result of this home and home will have a lot to do with what these two respective teams will, have cooking by March 7th. But like I said, there's a lot of teams. I mean, I like where the Flyers and Torts heads at, where you're playing every day to win, right? You don't play this game to lose, right? And in that, right, you got to still manage this team for the future too. So clearly, if the Flyers are in the playoff picture, Sam Harrison's going to be the guy. And he showed early on in the first period when Pittsburgh came out and blitzed this team early, right? He kept the Flyers in this game and certainly looked good against Edmonton over the weekend. He's going to be the clear number one. Tortorella said it in the morning skate practice presser. But as things change, and this is the bottom, there's a lot of teams, right? You got to gain ground early if you want to take the next step and, vanquish the demons of last year and get into that dance and punch your ticket for the playoffs, right? But you still have the 3 goalie situation. You got to see time for them, right? Fedotov currently in the backup role, but Kolosov, he said in the presser, or Tortorella said in the presser, hasn't really played a game since the middle of January. That can't happen, right?
Man.
This has got to be addressed. And the one thing I was a little pissed about was that during this break, right, the team had, right, Tortorella said that him and Danny haven't had time to get together to talk about what they're doing. Now, that could be some coach speak to the media, but if that is indeed true, what are you doing, man? The second half has started already, and you're still carrying 3 goaltenders. That's a problem. You can't keep sweeping it under the rug because you're going to start to stall some of these guys' development in both Fedotov and Kolosov.
Agreed.
And let's see here. What else we got from the fam here? Rob Brinkman saying, is 8 points in the 8-game homestand unrealistic?
It's 500 hockey. I think it's very realistic. I think with the way that things are going to, if this consistent play continues, you're probably going to get more than 8, honestly. Because Fedotov has been really good in that. Harrison is starting to form back into the player he was just as we were getting to the start of the break. This team is rested, and they look like they got their legs back under them. I think 8's kind of an undersell, in my opinion.
Agreed, because you got really balanced lines now that everybody's here. Visa issues have been taken care of. And health. You got a healthy Owen Tippett and Ryan Poehling, which is huge. Which is really huge. And I like what's building in the energy line where you have Jacob Peltier, who sort of, to Tort's point this morning, is one of those in-between type players, right? But he does bring a lot of energy, and he has the ability to deposit the puck in the net. So you pair that with Poehling and Hathaway, who have shown a proclivity there too. You have really balanced lines where really you can't say who is the Flyers' top line right now, right? Hey, based on this game, you'd have to say it's the Noah Cates line, but and that's where they list it here on Left Wing Lock. But Couturier, Mitchkov, and Tippett look great against Edmonton Oilers, and as much as Mitchkov benefited from the break, to your point, Maddie, not playing in the Four Nations tournament, Sean Couturier benefited a lot as well. He's got some jump in his skates.
They all do. They all do. The one who's really impressed me so far is Tippett. This is a guy we were saying last week or 2 weeks ago. This is a guy that needs to find his touch. Flyers need to lean on him to get this offense going, and if they want to be a team that's going to wind up making the playoffs, he absolutely has to start finding the back of the net. 3 goals in 2 games since the break. Let's go. This is what we were talking about last week.
Absolutely. And let's see here.
Damn right, Greg. Let's go.
Priz saying Dallas is being rumored for Seth Jones and Carlson. I can't see Dallas wanting either for more than a year. I mean, obviously, Dallas is in that position where they're trying to make that push to get themselves into the Stanley Cup Finals. So it wouldn't shock me if they were in on both of those players. You know,
That's
you
a lot
want
of money, though.
It's a lot of money, but at the same time, Dallas is in that position where, okay, we need to start spending and we need to start putting this team into overdrive to get us into that playoffs, because Dallas has had the same result for the better part of 3 seasons now. And a lot of people have been picking them for finals appearances, and they've disappointed every time. So, I mean, Vegas was doing the same thing, wheeling and dealing to try and get themselves in there. And eventually it did succeed. It took a little while, but they eventually got it to go. The point is Dallas is in the exact same ballpark. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised Dallas is rumored to be in on Carlson and Jones at this point.
Sure.
No, they need a defenseman badly.
Getting back to the Flyers lines and their play tonight, I mean, you don't want to break up the Couturier, Tippett, Mitchkov line. They've looked really good. But if you do want to limit his minutes over the course of the remainder of the season, 28-odd games left to go, they got Konechny playing on the technical third line with Lawton and Kuzmenko, which I think is really good for Kuzmenko's, inculcation here to the Philadelphia Flyers. But you have the ability to where you could slide up Konechny, right? A veteran that can play on multiple lines, to play with Couturier and Tippett and lower Mitchkov to a bottom 6 level of minutes if you need to monitor those minutes, if you start to see him feel sluggish. So I really like the makeup of what they got going on here in terms of the flexibility. And you got players like Kuzmenko who, there's a lot of talk that he could have been flipped, but he's trying to carve out a place here in Philadelphia because he's looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because, here's the thing too, it's not just his play. That's a big reason why I was excited that he was coming here. It's his personality. He's got a fun personality. Like, he seems like he's so happy to be out of Calgary, which I can't necessarily say that I blame him, not because of the organization, but because, it's a tundra. It's just absolutely bitter cold up there. So, you're in a new situation. You're in a playoff hunt. You're playing with a guy that you're familiar with playing with from your past. You're in a locker room full of guys who are just having fun and goofy, and you're just a fun, goofy dude as well. It's a fit. It's a fit. Now, if he plays good enough, I will be an advocate of trading him. But if it's to the point where starting to hear rumbles of the Flyers re-signing him, I'll be all about that as well. I just love this dude. Like, I since his days in Vancouver, I've been a big Andrei Kuzmenko fan. So I'm all about leaving him here. I would like to see him try and at least get one more point here tonight, but I mean, to me, I don't think he's been very noticeable on the ice. But that may not necessarily also be a bad thing either.
True. So let's see here. What else from the fam? Mike saying Malkin is technically a Hall of Famer. I wouldn't say technically. I would have to say he is.
Oh, first ballot.
Yeah, I'd be real shocked if he wasn't put into Hall of Fame talks the moment he retires. Let's see here. Also, Heather's saying to Priz to not make Yvonne jealous at the wedding. Meanwhile, Mike is saying, as Mean Metal Mike, sup. And he also says, thoughts on Fleury in his final season in Minnesota. He's had a great career, winding it down. And, hopefully he has a good ride. And, Minnesota's playing a really good hockey right now. They're having a really great season. So who knows? Maybe Fleury might surprise us all and have one last playoff run in him before it's all said and done.
Playing backup, I wouldn't surprise me if they gave him one more push.
Mm-hmm. I mean, think of it this way: he played backup to what's his nuts in Pittsburgh, and he basically helped backstop them to a second straight cup that year. So
he's a guy you keep fresh, man. 258 goals against and a 910 save percentage. That plays in the playoffs, especially with all of his experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see here. What we got?
What a game as we wrap up here. The final score is 6-1.
It's just a lovely, lovely thing to see. You know, just beautiful. I will say, again, when the Flyers said they were going to change their jerseys around, I was like, why don't they just stick to the black jerseys, make that their regular home? They seem to do so well when they wear them. It's like, you know what? Just roll with it. Roll with it, man. They did it in 2010. Roll it here. Let's
Jeez,
see.
I'm like 2 minutes and 14 seconds. There's still 2 minutes and 14 seconds left. Streaming, hey, I love it, but it's not good for live reaction shows.
No.
No, that was part of my problem when I was living in North Carolina. You guys were like 5 minutes ahead of me.
Unless it was Carolina, then, you were absolutely on point.
Yeah, because I had to watch it on Bally's. I wasn't allowed to stream it.
And let's see.
When Bally's was a thing, at least. It's not a
Right.
thing anymore.
Now that they are a thing of the past. Let's see here. Benny Station saying, hate to say it, but even if we take all 4 points, we are still selling.
Yeah. There's scouts there at the Wells Fargo Center for a reason, right? And Scott Lawton and Risto are the top, are the forefront. I think it is the right move, Benny. I agree with you. I still think you can sell and making, and still playing for every game. In other words, still making a playoff push and winning games. You don't have to go one way or the other, right? Like you can still help make this team grow by dishing off some veterans and getting valuable pieces and still make a push for this thing. I think either way, I just love the winning spirit of what's going on here. And it just, no matter what happens behind the bench, front office wise, like it's just night and day. It's so encouraging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. If I'm the Flyers, I'm going to be a conservative seller. I'm only going to sell a couple pieces because just like this team last year, this is a team that's finding ways to win, and they're not supposed to. So that goes to tell you the type of talent that this team has and the type of coaching that this team has. This is a guy that's drilling into these guys. Yes, we are rebuilding, but we are not going to lose games. We're going to win games. We're going to compete every single night. And they're building a roster for that. That's what's encouraging about this. That's why I say conservative sell. If you can go out and you can move a Scott Lawton to Winnipeg, I want to throw this player back in Pittsburgh face and go get Brendan Yeager. Because you know what? So that trade blew up in Pittsburgh's face. Because now Rucker McGroarty's on the trade block. So now they've really missed out. So if I'm the Flyers, I'm going to go throw that one back in Pittsburgh's face. I'm going to go get your young center that you drafted, and we're going to develop him.
I mean, there were a lot of trades that were questionable in recent history for Pittsburgh. I mean, still to this day, I'm not fully convinced that Ron Hextall wasn't a sleeper Flyers agent there to destroy and dismantle the Pittsburgh Penguins from the back end. So,
yes,
2% exactly made himself a distinguished year.
No, he hasn't. Let's see here. Priz saying, if Kuz can find its scoring touch again, it's a steal, but I wouldn't re-sign him for more than 2 years at a movable or eatable salary, which makes sense. I mean, and let's see here. A fishy Islanders fan, 57. What's going on, brother? Says, who wants baked fish? Obviously referring to the New York battle that happened as well this evening.
The fish sticks. We're out shooting the Rangers right now, 27-12, and they're losing 5-1.
I was going to say the blue shirts got the tartar sauce out tonight.
Yes, they do, and the cocktail sauce.
Yeah,
yeah.
It was a rough night at the office for the Islanders.
It's open for business.
Yeah.
I want to jump back to Priz's comment real quick. I was just looking at Kuzmenko's contract, and I'll be honest. I don't think his next contract, regardless if he stays in Philadelphia or not, is going to wind up being what it is now. He's at 5.5 now. I don't think he gets that. I think he does lose a little bit of money, but I think I think if things go well here, I think he signs a more team-friendly deal, understanding the situation and what he needs to do and what his role will be for this organization. And I don't think he signs a massive deal. I think Price is right on with the 2 years. I think he does. If he resigns, I think 2 years makes sense. But I think if I'm Danny, I'm going to talk to him about maybe like a $3.5 to $4 million contract, take a little bit less money, but understand that, you have a role here and you're going to absolutely be a part of the leadership in this locker room, especially with all the Russian players. He could be a massive vet for that purpose alone. He's been a guy that's in the league. He's 29 years old. Who better to help translate the game for these guys than a guy who's been here? So I think he's absolute benefit if they do resign him to a 2-year deal, because then he becomes a free agent at 31 or 32, depending on when he turns 30. Perfect time, because then this team will essentially be out of the rebuild, and it just all works out.
Give Tyson Forster credit. They're just showing up his stats. He got his goal tonight. It's his 16th of the season. 2 assists as well tonight against the Penguins. Love this kid.
I just traded for 3 of his cards yesterday.
Nice.
I got his Young Gun rookie card. I got his retro rookie card, and I got his draft rookie card.
Nice.
So let's go.
He may
Forster.
He may turn out to be a steal for the Flyers, as well as Mitchkov.
He's a stud.
Yeah, there's got some nice young pups rolling around here in the city of brotherly love. And let's see here.
You know what else we got here, real quick, Matty?
What?
We got a lot of people that need to hit that like, subscribe, and just keep coming back to HUD Radio. Not necessarily Flyers Talk HUD. Maybe we're not your cup of tea, but you know what? We got something that is. We have wrestling. We have Eagles football. We have basketball. We got Phillies coming up. They're in spring training. So make sure you all hit that like, hit that subscribe, keep coming back, hit that share, tell your friends. Let's go. It's A2D. And we ain't going nowhere. By the fan, for the fan. Let's go.
Yeah. So let's see here. What's next? We have Fish Yonder fan saying, "Who wants big fish?" He also says, "Hello from Long Island." Hello to you. It's happy to see you, good sir.
Appreciate you, Islanders fan.
Glad to have you back in the house as always.
Mm-hmm. Get your boys. Where you guys been?
Yeah, and then let's see here. He also says he's been a fan since 1995. Nice. So it's been a long journey. Yeah, he missed all the good times for the Islanders. 1995, the 90s were not kind to the Islanders.
No, not at all.
So let's see here. Prizzle saying Dallas has $13 million in LTIR money to spend too. Miro and Tyler down. They're about to Vegas the shit out of the deadline. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. And let's see.
Nice.
Right, they'll fall short like they always do.
Vegas is going to be able to use.
You just killed. I was being the voice of the voiceless there. I was being the voice of Priz when he just heard your comment. He just went, "Oh, Taylor's killing me, man."
Oh, that was great. We need a sound effect for that. Just
like the whammy sound effect.
Sort of. Let's go.
And let's see here. He also goes on to say, "What's all of your guys' favorite Islanders player?" Well, that's going to be a tough one for Brad to answer.
Pat LaFontaine.
LaFontaine's a good choice.
Richie Pilon for coming on the show.
True. You know what? I'm going to back you on that one, Pilon, because he was an awesome guy.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. He also played for the Rangers, too.
Interesting.
You go with Brett?
I love when he told us that
you're the only one who heard me.
I heard you.
Oh, Robbie, I think you're the only one who heard me on that one.
I mean, if you're talking the your favorite player that you watch play. Yeah, you know what I mean. There is Mike Bossy too. He was pretty good.
He was. He
You mean
was.
Mike Passy?
Chris
Did he
Brown,
play
your
with
favorite player
Clark?
growing up?
Did he play with Clark Gills and Brian Troutier?
I believe so. Definitely
Yeah.
Brian.
Troutier, right?
Yeah.
Are you getting the fish references?
A little bit, just a little on the
Yeah, there you
nose. But let's see. You know what? Um, let me see. I think my favorite Islanders player, though, of all time, it would probably be John Spano.
Oh, for destroying the team?
Pretty much, and being a con artist that actually owned the team for 2 seconds.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I had to do it. It's too
That's
easy.
okay. It's the Islanders. You can do that.
Let's see here. We got a gentleman by the name of Cody chiming in. Pittsburgh born, but Flyers fan. Really? Now there's a rare breed. Nice to meet you, my man. Said, would you like to keep moving forward with the rebuild around Mitchkov? Will be an interesting offseason. Absolutely would love to keep the rebuild around Mitchkov. And also on top of it, you are right. It will be a very interesting offseason, considering that the Flyers will have a little bit more wiggle room than they normally do.
And not just that, this is going to be a make or break for Danny Briere because this is going to be a massive offseason because he's going to finally have a lot of money to be able to play with. So, I mean, I don't think this free agent class is going to be all that great. I don't really think I don't know if they're really going to want to attract a ton of massive free agent talent. I don't think they're going to make a splash because you still want to be able to see what you have in Denver Barkey, and Jet Lachenko is probably going to get a spot on the roster next year. And then whatever happens at the trade deadline. So there's going to be a lot of question marks, at least for the next offseason. But I think this is going to be an offseason that's going to be a make or break for Danny Briere and this team and how quickly we get out of the rebuild. But yeah, absolutely. Build it around Mitchkov.
3 firsts and 4 seconds aren't going to hurt either, by the way.
Not at all.
In terms of free agency, do you throw the checkbook at Mikko Rantanen and see if it sticks?
Yeah, you can.
I mean, I would say
here.
I would say, are you guys like? I don't know. Do you feel like it should be team friendly? And if it starts to get to that point where it's flirting between team friendly and handicapping, then maybe you walk away.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it doesn't look like he's going to it's not working out there in Carolina. So, if he's touring around, you at least got to give an offer. Maybe you throw out a deal with the AAV of like 12 to 13 mil. That could be something that they afford as the cap rises over the course of the next 2 NHL seasons. And if he shoots for that 14 number and above, then you let it go to the highest bidder. But even after that trade, he was saying that he was willing to take 12 million. He didn't understand the trade. So once I heard that, was that the hometown discount to stay in Colorado that he wouldn't offer other people? Or if that's the number that he's figuring, I think that's something that could be orchestrated.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. If you meet with Mikko and you talk to him and you get good vibes with him, and obviously the Flyers organization is a well-known organization. It's well-known, if you've been there or if you haven't been there. If you could get good vibes with him and, possibly maybe you could get the 12 mil. If you can make it feel like, this is a team on the rise, which it is. And you can kind of sell it to him. It's like, listen, this is a team on the rise. You could make the 12 mil. If you do real well, we can then talk about other things possibly.
Carolina's already offered 8 years at 12.5, so we'll see what happens.
I get you, but
I think he's going to want 14. But
I mean, if he does shoot for the 14, it'll probably be. I think that might be a challenge.
Chris says he goes back to the Avs. I can see that.
They can't afford it.
They can't.
No, they can't. They can't pay him. That's why they got rid of him in the first place. I think he could go to either Chicago or Buffalo. They both have the money to
either of them. I don't think he wants to go there.
Well, it depends if he wants the money or not.
He's a competitor. He's going to want to sign with a team that's going to be either close to competing or a team that's just coming out of a rebuild.
Yeah,
So the
maybe.
so
We'll see.
Yeah,
Listen,
which
if I were him,
Flyers
I'd
might
stay
not
in
even fit
Carolina. I
that.
mean, Carolina,
mm,
you're going to be competing every year for the next 5-6 years. The way that team's built.
But I mean, that's okay. I'm fine with if the Flyers just allow for all the young pups. I mean, you still have a lot of high prospects over the court. Like Jet Lachenko you mentioned earlier, or what have you. Right. Eventually, you're going to see the development of Denver Barkey. You're going to see even a guy like Zayd Wisdom to help with your bottom six level. Right. Right. So, and then whomever they draft in this year's draft, they're forward. So I'm fine with going with all homegrown talent and letting this team form and excel together too. Why do you have to go out and get that high price free agent? Instead, save that money for locking down all these ELCs that'll be coming up.
Exactly. And that's kind of why I'm okay with if he goes out and he gets a couple players that make sense. I'm all for it, but I don't necessarily think that he has to really go out and make that splash and go after Mikko. I mean, obviously, if Mikko tests the market, call his agent. Absolutely, like you do your due diligence and just see what he's looking for. But if he's looking for too much, say no, because as much as I love watching him play, and Mikko is really is one of the top 15, top 10 players in this league. If he doesn't make sense for the Flyers right now, I don't pull the trigger. It is what it is. Like you let your guys develop. There's no need to bring in a veteran who's going to be on the well north side of 30 by the time his contract's over. To when you have guys that are young and upcoming, and obviously the development is for some of these younger guys that we're seeing on this roster right now are starting to flourish. I mean, if I'm Danny, I want to see what these other guys are going to do. I want to see what Jet Lachenko is going to do. I want to see what Denver Barkey is going to do. I want to see what Oliver Bonk's going to look like on the D pairing. This is the time to do it. Free up some of that cap, let it just sit, see what's out there. And obviously just don't be like the Phillies where you just don't do nothing, but, just do something that's going to make sense. It doesn't have to be high price. Same thing with trades at the deadline. Do something that's going to make sense. It doesn't have to be a splash.
Would Mitch Marner make you happy? If you can get him at the right price?
No, because then he's going to take up somebody else's spot.
Marner thinks he's
They don't necessarily need a high price free agent right now.
Well, if it never hurts to add a good player to the team, that's for sure.
No, but if you got your top two centermen, one's getting ready to come up next year, Marner can actually play the wing too, but I mean, you're still pretty loaded at right wing anyway. He just doesn't – I don't think there's really a hole for him. If we're going to sign a winger, sign a left winger.
So let's see here. Next, we got John saying, with the need at defense, what are your thoughts on Jacob Chikrin?
Still have Drysdale, still have York, still have Sanheim, still have Sealer. Then you got Bonk coming up. I think Zamula's still under contract. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Ristolainen. No spot unless you trade Ristolainen, which I don't think they should do because he's playing the best hockey he's played his entire career right now.
Let's see here. What else we got? We got Cody was saying Bedard was a minus 40 last season. Not ideal, but we have to remember what team he's playing on.
Yeah, that was a really bad team.
Yeah, Chicago is – it's going to be a while before Chicago is super ultra competitive. And Benny also said, speaking of Marner, just ended, won it in OT. Seems to be the trend for Marner right now.
Why we love you.
Oh, Toronto came back and beat Boston?
Apparently, Marner was the
Wow.
culprit in
Good.
cinching it.
Good.
So let's see here. We
So
got
what's that mean? They're 0-2 since they came back from the break? Let's go.
apparently.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
take it
all the other
because
teams look like they're winning right now. We need Detroit to lose.
Me Metal Mike saying John Tavares would be his favorite Islanders player. I think John said Billy Smith, which, to be honest with you,
Whoa.
I give credit to Billy Smith. He's the one who inspired Ron Hextall.
no
So
way. The Ducks lost. They were up 2-0 going into the third.
who'd they lose to?
Buffalo.
Eh,
I'm not going to say anything about Buffalo.
come on.
They're not as bad as their record says.
No, they're not.
They're really
not
not.
that bad.
But seriously though, Brian, you couldn't beat Buffalo? Come on, man.
Points out of the playoff spot. I'm going to take what we got right now.
What? I have to razz you a little bit. Come on.
I'm sorry. We're 7 points out of the playoff spot now, but I'll still take it. We still went. We're 1-1-1 since the break. I'll take it.
500.
Mhm.
So let's see here. A couple comments that start off to the side. Pris saying Oilers versus Capitals. Ovi sets the record this season, which I do believe he will. And McDavid gets his cup, and the NHL gets 2 birds with 1 stone. I disagree with that part. I'll explain why in a second. Besides that, he also says, "Hey Brad, congrats on the correct Four Nations tournament prediction." And the reason why I started that, I feel like that would be a perfect transition for us to go into our final thoughts on the Four Nations Cup. As always, Canada manages to eke out a victory over somebody, this time the U.S. again. Unfortunately, has nothing but smacks of 2010 in the Olympics with that one, with Connor McDavid filling in on the Crosby spot this time around. And, of course, how fitting. So Canada wins the Four Nations Cup, and unfortunately the U.S. is runners-up once again. It is a shame, but Jordan Binnington, he decided to reignite himself from 2019 there and decided to stop literally everything.
Binnington.
Yeah,
By the
playoff
way,
Binnington showed up.
Here, very, very strong rumors about him being traded to Edmonton, just to let you guys know.
Well, nothing like
be,
winning it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a gigantic move for Edmonton if they could pull that off.
It would be.
They're not going to do it. There's been rumors of them trading for a goalie for the last 5 years. They keep going with Skinner.
They keep going with Skinner, or
Yeah,
they were
they
going
keep
with
losing
Smith.
with Skinner.
I'll believe that when I see it.
So let's see
I'm just
here.
telling you what I've been hearing.
No, I know. I'm just
Yeah.
It's a rumor.
Yeah, I believe it when I see it too, but where there's smoke, there could be fire. I wonder what Edmonton would have to give up to get him.
Well, John's saying
draft.
So John's saying, could this be the year the Cup returns to Canada? Finals Edmonton, Toronto. No, and now I'm going to explain why. Because the moment that it happened, the moment that Team Canada scored that OT winner and beat the U.S. to win the Four Nations Cup, I knew right then and there, Canada's not winning the Cup. Because Canada can't actually compete when the playoffs roll around because it's just how it goes. They'll win everything internationally. They can't win the Cup. The Cup is staying clear out of Canada. I was like, yep, Cup's staying in the U.S. I don't care who Canada throws out. I don't give a shit if it's Winnipeg. I don't give a shit if it's Toronto or Edmonton. Take all the star power, shove it up your ass. Take Connor Hellebuck. Did a great job in the U.S. Love you for it. Shove him up your ass. There ain't no Canada team winning in the Cup this year. It is staying here in the land of the Stars and Stripes because that's just how it works in sports. That's how it works.
It's our Austin Matthews isn't going to win a cup or a medal.
True.
He can't win. He can't win anything, unfortunately. And he's the least of my worries in the Four Nations final.
Yeah, pretty much. John did bring up an interesting point, though. If Russia had a team, it would have been very interesting. It would have been. It probably would have been very intriguing if Ovechkin had been in the tournament. And, I mean, I would
So
hope
if you had
Michkov would have been
Vasilevsky
there, but
or Igor goal,
well, hold on. Is Vasilevsky Russian or is he Czech?
I think he's Russian.
He is
I think
Russian.
he's
Okay.
I
Russian.
think so.
So is
Okay.
Igor.
Well,
They-
Igor
they
is,
wouldn't-
yes.
Yeah, they wouldn't have a problem. They wouldn't have a problem in goal. That's for sure.
I think Igor probably would have gotten the starting spot, honestly. I can't think of anybody else besides Vazzy that would have been considered. At least not off the top of my head. I could be wrong, but I think Igor would have been the guy who would have taken it.
Bobrovsky, the third.
Either way, they
third
weren't going to
seed.
go wrong.
Oh my God, yeah, Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Yeah,
Rob's just
Bobrovsky
sitting there with
too.
that bonk on the head,
Yeah.
just like, yeah, you dumbass, Bobrovsky.
Yeah, what about really?
Yeah, but he would be that third talented goaltender that saw no ice time like we saw on these Four Nations rosters. It's a very short-lived tournament. I do hope they continue doing this though in between Olympics. The NHL athletes will be returning to the Olympics in 2026, I think.
Mhm.
But if you want to have it say in 2028, like maybe like in between, like kind of like what WBC does, fans really got into it. It did really well in this short-lived tournament where it's only just a quick round robin. Maybe if you have more than four, if it's 5 nations or 6 nations, you might have to. But maybe you keep it short like this. Your top 4 nations, you have to qualify for it, right? So you get the cream of the crop, whatever 4 nations that be. Continue that when it's the best of 3 games and then a final. It's all game 7s like we talked about last week. So it's I definitely hope it's here to stay because it definitely did really well. And to everybody's point on the outside, it's like what the NHL did with their All-Star game versus what the NBA or the NFL with their Pro Bowl, night and day. They basically turned their All-Star break into the Super Bowl like that.
Mm.
I mean, I don't think this is something that's going to wind up being a long-term fix. Not because it's not great or not because of not worrying about, the views or whatever. Think about how many players got hurt and have pretty much finished up the season because of an injury. These guys are dressing for their nations and they're playing as hard as they possibly can, which they should. But you look at Matthew Tkachuk, done for the year. Look at Charlie McAvoy, done for the year. These injuries happened in this tournament.
Shea Theodore too.
Shea Theodore's hurt. Like that's something that they're going to have to think about moving forward with this is these guys are going to go hard. Once you put that nation jersey on, it's a much different animal. Like it's not like putting on a regular All-Star jersey where these guys are just going to go through the motions, which is fine, but it's fun for the crowd, but
it's the inherent risk, obviously.
But now these teams that are in prime playoff positions or trying to get into a playoff position now have to go out and find a fix because a player got hurt in what was supposed to be an All-Star break.
Well, that's true. I mean, and that's definitely an issue. But I mean, even with that situation being what it is, I would argue and say that they might consider only doing it because let's say you do 2 years between the Olympics, between Winter Olympics, 4 years technically between the Winter Olympics. It's too it feels like it between the summer and the winter. So the point being is that what you could do is you could have a situation where you do 1 Four Nations face-off in between the time period between the Olympics and then do your regular All-Star. So you could still have a little bit more consistency with it, but you're not doing it every year. So it kind of maintains a sense of freshness to it. And on top of that as well, you could also have less of a chance of players getting hurt every year where it could be like, okay, we'll do this maybe every couple of years. And if there's the Olympics, we're not doing it at all. Because obviously the Olympics will be what the All-Star break was going to be,
which
essentially
is going to be next year. But you also got to think too, the Olympics wasn't as intense as this is. Like there was hitting, there was hard hitting, there was fighting. Like this was, I'm not saying that this wasn't entertaining or that wasn't a good move by the NHL, but you got the thing that I'm worried about now is say the Flyers, the Ducks, or the Rangers find themselves as Stanley Cup contenders at some point. They do this tournament and you lose a player from an injury, and now it's one of your top players. That's a massive loss. And now you have to figure out how are you going to replace him because he's out for the rest of the year.
Well, that's the thing too. Like
you can't
that.
really replace him. That's the problem. If it's
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's exactly my point.
yeah,
well,
you can't replace the guy like that. You can't. The Panthers can't replace Kachuk.
No.
Who are they going to get? Nobody's as good as him.
I mean, he's their heart and soul player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you get down to it.
I mean, even Brady's banged up. Brady missed the first couple games for Ottawa.
Well, those two went hard in this tournament. I mean, they were the two. If you had an MVP to give to Team USA, you'd have to split it between both of them.
Absolutely.
Because they absolutely were the
Absolutely.
heart and soul of that team.
But I just don't want this to be a thing that teams have to worry about
Right.
with this tournament.
Right.
And this is the only negative that I found from this is not have to worry about guys getting banged up in what's supposed to be considered an all-star game or an all-star tournament.
It's a valid point. I think they'll do it 10 times out of 10 now.
Yeah, and I will watch it 10 times out of 10.
Right, and I mean the players themselves, right? Like it's just part of it, and hey, you can get hurt in practice,
Absolutely.
right? You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's not this intensity, and I get what you're saying, and I don't want to take
Guys, what
away from
about
that.
going back to the 60s and having an all-star team playing against the Stanley Cup champion?
Right.
But I will.
That they did that back in the 60s. I remember the Leafs, as a matter of fact, when they won in 67, in 68, they played NHL All-Stars, and they beat them, by the way.
Yeah.
I will say that the one thing that I think also added to this tournament was the political side of things. Obviously, there's a lot of tension going on between Canada and the U.S., and that really hyped up this tournament a lot more than it would. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been hyped up. It definitely would have been, because it would have been a competition all the same. But with the political side of it, it definitely heated up this tournament a lot more, and it added a lot more to it, I feel. And, is that a good thing? Well, we can debate that because you never want that kind of thing to happen. But at the same time, it's also like it did add a lot to this tournament at the end of the day. And and I think and in a lot of ways, I think for Canada, for them to win it, I think it, not to say that it wouldn't have meant something to the U.S., but I definitely think it would have. It probably means about as much to them winning this Four Nations Cup as it probably did them beating the Soviets in the Summit Series and them winning the 2010, gold medal in the Olympics and, things like that, and them winning in Salt Lake City. Those are like big wins for Canada. I think it ranks right up there with those big victories for them.
Right. And I mean, there's no doubt about it, Maddie. It definitely, the social climate did add gasoline to the fire, but this is always a battle. We've been seeing it since our early days of hockey and, dating back to, or as recent memory as Sidney Crosby getting the golden goal. And in this case, it was, Connor McDavid getting the golden goal, quote unquote. But to me, what this tournament proved is that Canada is still the cream of the crop, but the gap has narrowed extensively between our friends to the north and the USA. So when you're talking about USA hockey, I mean, it's not only just in the conversation, right? These are now two juggernauts that can go back and forth toe to toe. But in the end, Canada stood up and they said, they echoed the voice of their Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. You can't take our country and you can't take our game. So it obviously did mean a lot to them. You know what I mean? And it was evident on the ice. But I mean, you've had this in sports. This isn't new, right? This was going on in 1980 as well. So in the end, it makes for good stories. It
does. It does. John saying not to get political, but with the possibility of the war with Ukraine, they might allow for Russia to compete, and that would make great hockey. Well, obviously, we can't really predict the future of that, but if it came down to it, I don't know if that would immediately happen. It would depend on the situation, really. I mean, even if the war in the Ukraine was to end even tomorrow, there's really there's no guarantee that even Russia would be immediately allowed back into the IIHF competition. They might still just say, no, you're still suspended until further notice. And the same thing with Belarus. They are also suspended. So again, when that kind of stuff gets there, it's very touch and go. You really don't know, with those kind of things. Now, as for a Four Nations Cup, the next time the NHL does it, if everything is over by then, you could probably see it. And then if they're in it, that could change a whole thing. They might have to change it from the 4 nations to 5 nations. You might have to change the whole format of it altogether. Because if you're doing a 4 nations, then you include Russia, who gets the boot? Does Finland or Sweden get the boot? That's when you have to ask that question.
You could have qualifying matches to determine that.
You
and
could.
In the end, it's 4 nations. You know what I mean? Maybe that's done before the season to establish which 4 nations will be there. So that way you're not piling on more games and more intensity in a short amount of period of time.
Right. So it's an interesting, dynamic because it's happening in the middle of the season too. Unlike the World Baseball Classic that happens at the beginning before the MLB season even gets going. So, it's a little bit of a different dynamic when it comes to that. But I will say this, Canada can back up its claim that it's their sport, whereas the U.S. can't back up its, because every time baseball rolls around, the U.S. absolutely shits the bed. So, they got that going for them. So,
represented
part of
best
that,
time
one
out.
of the reasons for that is they never pick the best team.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. And a little country named Japan too.
That as well, but
they still never pick the best team though. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
But
agreed.
I mean, I will say this though: it would be fun to see it again. It'd be fun to see because I think it would add to the rivalry between Canada and the U.S., like you were talking about, Robbie. With the gap, getting ever so smaller between the U.S. and Canada. It's like, this could turn into something really interesting where maybe the U.S. could snag 1 or 2 of them away from Canada. And this could become an actual big thing that happens in the middle of the season between the U.S. and Canada. And also, if Russia is allowed to compete, they're definitely going to have something to say about being one of the top countries in hockey. So the possibilities are there. I get the injury, though. I get that worry from the team's perspectives. It's the debate that they've had, the inherent risk. The NHL has long since debated, do they want to send the pros to the Olympics? And the players have stated many times that they want to go to the Olympics. And that's one of the reasons why the NHL relents and lets them do it. So it's one of those things where it'll be a continual debate every year about whether they should continue doing international competition with NHL pros or not. So let's see here. Well, yeah, basketball would be the better comparison. To be fair, though, I don't know. Is there any other country that actually matches the U.S. in basketball? Or do they even come close? I don't even think they do.
France, maybe?
I don't know. I have no clue. I mean, I know that there are some international stars in the NBA that are all-star players, but it just seems like it's night and day outside of the U.S. It's like, is there any other country that's competing against the U.S. for gold? I feel like that's a given.
Right. I mean, Serbia, Croatia, those are all, I mean, I'm not a huge basketball guy, but I know that they have a lot of European leagues that put off some competitive games, but it's only it's like that lion playing around with its food before it comes in and strikes down with great vengeance.
Right. Oh, they're showing a highlight here. Did Ovechkin get another one? Yep, Ovechkin got another one.
Watch
Oh,
Ovechkin pass Gretzky and the Capitals win the cup.
that would be
It just shocked the world.
insane. That would be insane if they pulled that off. Because no one would see that coming. Holy shit.
Obi walks off into the sunset. Hospital stuff, baby.
What a way to walk off.
Yeah, that's a walk off. That's a walk off right there.
They're really good this year too.
So let's see here. Benny's saying Serbia, Australia, and Argentina. I was not expecting to see Australia, but that is interesting.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Argentina. That's surprised I had no knowledge of. But yeah, Serbs. Yeah, what's his name? Josevic Nikola. Isn't he from Serbia? I believe. A big center out of Denver. I don't know. I'm not a basketball guy, but I read a lot.
Yeah, I feel like that's right.
Yeah, I think he is. But I mean, they make the rules such that it gives the other teams a chance because they play with different rules. I think in the in as opposed to NBA rules, don't they?
Well, the Olympics does. The Olympics always does. I mean, hockey too. They play more towards European style rules. For the with the IIHF, they follow their rules as opposed to the NHL rules. Even if it's in North America, they still follow the IIHF rules. So with that, was there any other big thoughts you guys had on the Four Nations Cup and anything we wanted to add on to the Flyers talk this week?
Brad made mention of it earlier in the show in the private chat. And I did want to highlight, congrats out to Coots for getting his 200th over the weekend against Edmonton. Good shit. He's looking good. He's looking good coming from the break, like I said earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully we can see Coots getting into that rhythm, start being super effective in the offensive zone because we know he can be. So, and if that's the case, he's going to be deadly.
Little rejuvenation is never going to hurt anybody.
Nope.
Shot in the arm. As some say.
For me, it's just this team. I want to see this team continue what they're doing. I know the pace is going to slow down a little bit, but maintain playing very good defense in front, maintain giving Urson that support, figuring out ways to absolutely keep the puck in the offensive zone. They're forechecking like crazy right now, and they're turning pucks over. I love it. I just want them to maintain that, and whatever the result will be, the result will be. But I would just absolutely love just to see this team make a push just like they did last year, maybe finish stronger than they did last year.
So with that,
One more thing, guys. One more thing.
Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Detroit lost Andrew Kopp. Okay. Do you think that could really hurt Detroit's chances to make the playoffs? Because that is a pretty big loss. He's done for the season.
He's out
that gives everybody else. I think that gives everybody else a chance. Or Detroit's going to have to make a big trade for a second line center.
Well, Benny just said they just went up 3-2. So I mean, they have enough talent on that team to survive. But losing Kopp that's a bad piece in terms of even if you make the playoffs, what you're going to do in the playoffs, right? Because he's just proven battle-worn player, and he's the type of guy that's going to put you in position. They're a fringe team as it is, so any loss is going to hurt their chances.
Well, especially you look at how they lost the game Saturday. That was an incredible loss. When you're up 2 goals with 8 minutes to go at home and on a power play, and you still find a way to lose the game, that's hard to do.
Yeah, that is.
I know you enjoyed seeing that though, as a Ranger fan.
Oh yeah. I thought it was pretty funny actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel bad for Kopp because it was such a freak injury.
Yeah, it was.
And it was all because, a clean hit on Brock Faber started a whole melee, and that's where he got hurt. He fell down, and then somebody his foot got caught in the ice and somebody fell on his leg. You know, it sucks, but we got to get to a point where I get it. You're defending your teammate, but can we stop with the scuffles after a clean hit? If you want to scuffle after a hit like Zegers put on Rasmussen, okay, fine, because that was a dirty hit. But the DeBrincat hit on Faber, there was no need for that.
No.
And it cost him Andrew Copp.
Yeah. It did, and that's a big injury for them.
I think there is something to be said for discretion being the better part of valor at times. I mean, you could always, there was a time that, you would have the gripping and the shoving back and forth after the play, but there was also times where you wouldn't necessarily see anything too aggressive after the whistle, but guys who were tough as nails would kind of eye up the other team and just kind of give them that warning glare or give them that warning in the chirp and just say, okay, all right, receipt taken. It's going to be given back at some point.
And that's my thing is, like, I'm all for standing up for your teammate. I really am. Like, but Brock Faber bounced right back up.
He did.
It's not like he stayed down for a little bit.
Right.
If he stays down, okay. Just grip up to DeBrincat, throw him against the boards, like, and call it a day. But it was a clean hit. He pops back up, and now because of that, Detroit's down one of their best players.
Right. I mean, even like also, you didn't have
smarter,
to necessarily.
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. It's like there's a time to go crazy, and there's a time to say, okay, all right, gotcha. So we're gonna get chippy now. All right, we'll get chippy. We have
got
no
the
problem
license
with
plate
it.
of that car.
Yeah. Don't worry.
You're gonna get your ticket.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it.
He's a small dude too. Like you don't think you're going to be able to pop him once? Like,
right. It's
come
just
on, let's be real.
Yeah, there's a time. There's a time.
The next time you get into the corner with him,
right?
Give him a little boop.
Yeah, give him a little extra.
Which is what
as a quick aside, boys. There was a time in the late '90s where I thought when we got deep into the 2000s that this element of hockey was going to be gone. It couldn't stick around like for this in terms of the way these guys police themselves, and the fact that it's still going on in 2025 just tells me that time is endless. Like it'll always be like that, and it's beautiful. It's just a beautiful thing. I love it.
Yeah, they won't
just be like
they won't change that. Everybody loves it.
Yeah, be like what's his name? McKenna, who absolutely obliterated his stick, slashing somebody along the wrist, and then taking said broken stick, giving him a shot in the back of the head. And like that's do something more like that. Just pull the guy off to the side.
Right,
you're gonna hurt somebody. You're not gonna hurt somebody like that.
But here's the thing, though, and even Robbie and everybody can remember, even during that time period in the 90s and the 2000s, there was plenty of times where there was plenty of tough customers who would be, you see the big hit, you see what it did to your player, but they didn't immediately do anything. They waited, and they waited patiently for the right time. And when the time came, sometimes it was in garbage time, when the game was almost over. But especially in the playoffs, you're seeing them again. So you're just like, okay, now's the time. And then, boom, they'd strike. And then you're like, okay, there you go. Receipt returned. There you go.
Oh yeah.
It's just like pitchers and the head hunting that goes on in baseball. You know what I mean? Like it's like you'll get your receipt. It's gonna come. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. But we'll decide when it's going to happen, and it may not happen it may not happen this game. It may happen tomorrow.
Right.
It's going to come, and they keep you scared and in suspense as to exactly when it's going to happen.
Right. That's what I think we're all saying. It's like there's a time and place for it. You just got to be smarter on when it's time to start cashing in on that, and for what reason. Is it a good reason? Is it a valid reason to do it at the end of the day? That's what we're all trying to say here.
When it comes to Trevor Zegers, it was not. And now he's got to sit for 3 games because of it.
Right.
I hope you learned your lesson.
So, all right.
Really unnecessary. You were like 20 seconds late.
Right.
The principal point of contact was that. Like, come on, Zeke. Come on. That's not your game. Let's go. Straighten up.
So
I am kind of proud of him for for getting on that dirty list. To me, it's an honor for a hockey player to get on the dirty list at least once in their career.
Every now and again, just to
Yeah.
show them,
Just to show that you were a hockey player.
Right. So, with that, we thank everybody for joining us for this edition of Flyers Talk A2D right here on a2dradio.com. If you want to follow, as we said before, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. We've got everything here for your sports desires, whether it be here for hockey or whether you want to talk about basketball, football, baseball, wrestling. We've got it all here at the end of the day. And
WWE, no AEW, because
well, we have
we're
standards.
elite.
Yeah, we have
They're not.
standards. Yeah.
We're elite.
Yeah,
They are not.
definitely not.
Why has it got to be like that? Can't we just love all wrestling?
Well, they can't sell out a stadium anymore.
I mean, it is sad.
It's so bad. Ricochet was so good in the WWE, and then he goes to AEW and craps. He's so terrible now.
You can love AEW just like some people can love getting, bamboo shards shoved under their nails, or they love getting beaten within an inch of their life, Like some people enjoy crap like that,
I'll say this.
know.
If you enjoy nostalgia and you enjoy some of those older wrestlers that you grew up with, Cesaro, Paige, Edge, Christian, all them, more power to you. That's probably more for you. I like more of a storytelling. I just think WWE does it better.
They always have. They always have.
Let's wrap it up.
All right. So we thank everybody once again for joining us. And we were brought to you by the Dr. Paul Vidal over at Specialized Physical Therapy. And next week, we will be back as usual here to give you all of the fun and enjoyable shenanigans that the Hockey Happy Hour brings to you. And there is a lot of it, trust me. But next week, I'm just going to double check here. We do have a game to react to, and that will be the Calgary Flames coming to town. So the Morgan Frost's new team will be the next one up on the deck. Yes.
Boys are coming back.
That should be real good.
Should be very interesting. We know Frosty's going to be playing with a bit of an edge on that one. So could be. So we thank you all for joining us once again. From everyone who was new here, thank you for joining the fam. And for all the regulars, of course, we love you guys. Thank you for your support. You are the lifeblood here at A2D Radio. And next week, we will see you for the Flyers and the Flames. Until then, you stay safe. You stay healthy out there. Enjoy whatever it is you're planning on doing this weekend as you get through the work week. And we will see you right here on A2DRadio.com. Peace and love, everyone.